Did you know that, in spite of US concerns, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates have been buying petroleum goods from Russia at a deep discount? This is in reaction to the sanctions that were put in place by the US and its allies in the West after Russia invaded Ukraine. Due to the loss of many of its long-standing business partners, Moscow is now having to sell its goods for less money. In the meanwhile, due to the war, Russian energy supplies that are difficult to transfer internationally are now traded and stored in the United Arab Emirates. Surprisingly, oil-rich Gulf countries have agreed to trade with Russia as a result of the lower prices. By shunning reduced Western goods in favor of less expensive Russian goods, the Gulf states are defying the US. They sell their own oil at market rates in addition to using these items for their own use. These nations, which possess some of the greatest oil reserves in the world, have seen an unexpected increase in earnings as a result of this audacious initiative. This demonstrates how the US has lost influence in the Middle East as a result of the unanticipated outcomes of the Western sanctions. This revelation highlights Saudi Arabia's shift to a nationalist energy policy that serves its interests rather than those of the US, even though there's no indication that Gulf nations will stop using Russian oil. Russia's oil shipments to the United Arab Emirates are expected to reach an unprecedented peak of 60 million barrels in 2024, according to recent reports. Regrettably, things are not the same in Singapore, where exports only increased by 13% to a total of 26 million barrels. Russia's gas oil makes up over 10% of the products stored in Fujairah, second only to Saudi Arabia. Furthermore, Russian exports to Saudi Arabia have increased significantly, reaching over 100,000 barrels per day, or over 36 million barrels yearly. From nearly zero exports prior to the Ukraine conflict, this represents a significant increase. However, US officials are concerned about the cooperation between Russia, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia because they perceive it as a challenge to Western efforts to exert pressure on Russia over the Ukraine crisis. The US Undersecretary for Treasury, Brian Nelson, traveled to the Middle East in February to persuade countries including Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Turkey to uphold Western sanctions against Russia. The United Arab Emirates adheres to the sanctions imposed by the UN and has robust protocols in place for dealing with entities that are sanctioned. However, the country is committed to carrying out honest and open business dealings with its foreign partners. In an effort to raise oil prices earlier this year, Saudi Arabia and its allies reduced their oil production. Furthermore, the US's worries that this would support Russia's military efforts are disregarded by the decision. Rich Russians and their businesses have made Dubai and the other Emirates into popular international hubs where they can conduct business without being hindered by Western regulations. Due to price limits and sanctions, Russia's main oil, Urals, has been trading more than 30% less than regular Brent in recent months. Saudi Arabia's oil business, Aramco, now disclosed on February 12 that it turned a record-breaking $161 billion in annual profits in 2023. This is the largest profit an energy business has ever disclosed. The largest and state-controlled section of Aramco, the refining unit, had a 27% increase in earnings as part of the profit. According to the survey, the countries around the Persian Gulf are rich in refined goods including diesel, fuel oil, and naphtha. Still, they just imported from Russia in order to take advantage of the cheaper costs. Russian diesel and naphtha are sold for $60 and $25 cheaper per ton, respectively, than Persian Gulf-produced goods. By importing more diesel from Saudi Arabia, France and Italy considerably reduced their reliance on Russian motor fuel in 2023. The US and EU, meanwhile, have vowed to oppose any attempts to destabilize the oil markets. The US and EU pledged to counter any moves that would destabilize the world's energy markets. They convened in Brussels to talk about the implications of Russia's invasion on Ukraine. Following its invasion of Ukraine, Russia cut off gas supplies to Europe. As a result, the US and EU have boosted their energy cooperation. This is due to the invasion creating a scarcity of energy in Europe, which led to a sharp increase in costs. Furthermore, politicians in Europe have charged Russia with utilizing its energy resources as a weapon. As a result, sanctions against Russian goods, including coal and oil, have been imposed by the US and EU. Additionally, the price of Russian oil transported by water has a cap, thanks to the G7. Additionally, both parties have stated that they are determined to oppose any efforts to undermine the world energy situation and circumvent sanctions. Nevertheless, in spite of these obstacles, Europe has been able to successfully replace the majority of the gas it was previously buying from Moscow by developing renewable energy sources, purchasing from other suppliers, and putting laws in place to lower total gas consumption. Furthermore, in 2023, the United States of America supplied 56 billion cubic meters of liquefied natural gas to Europe. With this quantity more than double that of the previous year, Europe is now the main destination for US LNG shipments. Additionally, the US and EU have decided to collaborate closely in order to lessen reliance on Russia for nuclear services and fuel. This year, they intend to collaborate on a joint summit to advance cutting-edge technologies like as compact modular reactors. Experts add that the Saudi-Iran agreement shows how the US sanctions policy was a complete failure. According to the analysts, years of efforts to resolve disagreements between Saudi Arabia and Iran led to the latest accord. This agreement demonstrates the futility of the US strategy of placing sanctions on nations such as Iran. Both nations agreed not to meddle in each other's domestic affairs and to open their embassies and missions within 2 months of the agreement's signature in March. Nearly 10 years without diplomatic ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran came to an end with the latest agreement. When Saudi Arabia severed its diplomatic ties with Iran in 2016, a breach developed. Experts say that Riyadh and Tehran have been attempting to mend relations for some time, despite the deal's unexpected timing. Middle East specialist Christian Coates Ulrichsen explains that the US's maximum pressure campaign was the catalyst for Saudi Arabia's decision to make amends with Iran. This entailed slapping Iran with harsh sanctions and pulling out of the 2015 nuclear agreement that Washington, Tehran, and other major world powers signed. Although Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman pleaded with the United States to put further pressure on Iran, Tehran was blamed for a drone strike that struck the kingdom's oil facilities in 2019. The strike reduced Saudi Arabia's oil output by 50%. Ulrichsen said in a webinar hosted by the Arab Center of Washington, D.C., Donald Trump thought that this was an attack on Saudi Arabia, not on the U.S. He distinguished between their interests and those of the U.S. He also mentioned that the Saudis came to the realization that they needed to act in their own best interests. According to Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, the country's decision to forego plans to increase its capacity for producing crude oil as a result of the energy transition. This decision was made on Monday. Saudi Arabia shocked the oil market by announcing a change in its production capacity strategy at the end of the previous month. The leadership of the kingdom has instructed state oil giant Aramco to halt efforts to increase its maximum sustainable capacity to 13 million barrels per day, BPD, and instead maintain it at 12 million BPD. The largest oil company in the world said in a statement that when it releases its 2023 financial results in March, it will revise its capital investment estimates for the year. At a conference held in Saudi Arabia today, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman clarified the reasons behind the decision, as reported by Bloomberg. "We are transforming, which entails that our oil firm, which was formerly a hydrocarbons company, is now evolving into an energy company, with investments spanning across many industries, including petrochemicals, gas, and oil." Regarding the motivations underlying the Saudi decision, conjecture has run wild. First, pundits conjecture that there is now uncertainty about the long-term prognosis for oil demand. Then, according to investment banks, the market has been shocked by the increase in production from non-OPEC Plus producers over the last 2 years, and Saudi Arabia, the world's largest supplier of crude oil, may have realized it needs to work more to maintain its market share. There is also the view that oil prices may be supported for an extended period of time by Saudi Aramco's unexpected announcement. Last but not least, the suspension of expansion is anticipated to spare Aramco billions of dollars in capital expenditure on large-scale new projects, relieving pressure on the balance sheet and possibly freeing up additional funds for the kingdom, which is planning to spend heavily on ambitious projects like the NEOM project, a cornerstone of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 program to diversify its economy and grow it away from oil. And that's it. If you want to continue to learn about business investing and financial education, we have got this video waiting on the screen for you to check out. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.